Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Murdoch, and this is Webinars with Wendy. I've been doing a series of webinars during the pandemic to entertain myself, learn something, and have a chat with some friends. I'm always curious to make some new friends and to learn some new information. And so today my guest is Stefanija from Latvia, which is really cool. You're my first guest from Latvia. And we're going to talk about bit fitting. But you're a veterinarian. So just, Stefanija, give us a bit of your background, your history, you know, how you got where you are today and talking about bits.
Yeah, well, I try not to talk too much about myself, but thank you very much for asking. It's always nice for everyone to introduce. So first, of course, I still would like to thank for doing all of this, and I'm so happy to be here with you and talk about this topic. So yes, I'm from Latvia. It's near Scandinavia, if somebody more knows where Scandinavia than Latvia. So, I'm my background with horses is for 25 years already, with really different equestrian world aspects, from I don't know, from breeding till training and till treating. And I'm actually 15 years in veterinary already, but I started as a veterinarian assistant first, and then I carried on the studies for veterinary, and I was working both for small animals and for the horses. So and yeah, and all horses were all the time in between my work and my studies, and I was traveling to Europe, working even as a competition groom to get my earning while I'm studying, and so on and so on. So I have seen different aspects, ups and downs, and training, and I was always very interested in equine behavior. I was always interested in equine feet and the trimming and all sorts of things. And at that time, when it was 2006, I think, in my area in Baltic states, it's nobody really knew much about the physiotherapy, body works, and so on and so on. But as I was traveling, I got to know all of these things, and then yes, of course, I was interested in that, and so on and so on. And then at some point, I thought that I don't want to do small animals as much as anymore, and I would like to do more horses. But at the same time, I realized that if I do just normal veterinary work, I will just keep fight consequences what they are. So instead, I decided better to do integrative veterinary work, educate more people on health issues, how they can be prevented, and so on and so on. And of course, speaking about bit fitting, as I was doing body works and also saw different injuries from bits and the consequences of the bad rein contact on the horse body, I realized, what could I do more, and what should I bring in my area, and how? So, and then I started to look, and I found Natasha van Eyck. She's in Netherlands, and she's leading teaching international college for bit fitters. And I like her approach, that she's taking whole horse approach also. And it's like not like just 2 days of the studies. It's more like really study work. So I went to her, and yes, and here I am now here. And actually, I fell in love with bit fitting, and mostly because I was surprised myself that after many years, I was telling myself, bloody hell, how could I not see it before? But so when I saw the differences we can make for horses just to finding a correct bit and adjusting correctly bridles, it was like so amazing. And when you do bit fitting, the best what you can get, it's just by seeing how happy horses at the end. It's like it's really it's really overwhelming, this feeling. So
You know,
here I am.
when I was a kid, the bit of choice was a fat egg butt snaffle, and that's what we all rode in, was a fat egg butt snaffle. Or if you were a little kid, you rode in a Pelham, which you know, actually,
it was a bit
the Pelham
easier then.
The easier bit and a better bit than a snaffle. But you know, that was the thing, is that this is the bit you used, and we really didn't look at any of the aspects of an anatomy or anything like that. So you know, it's really great that we are evolving in our understanding and concept and recognizing that there's an anatomical fit that we have to have, as well as looking at the comfort of the horse. But of course, in the end, you've already said it, the horse is the one that gets to choose. And we really need to listen to our horses and let them tell us what's more comfortable. So, so let's get into it. Let's get right into your presentation. Really excited.
So I have a little presentation for you, and I'm just gonna share the screen. And here we go, and there. So like I said, I would like just to pay attention more into the importance of the bit fitting itself. So one of the hang on, where's my slides? Here we go. What is bit fitting? In my own opinion, the bit fitting is not just changing the bits and thinking and coming over to the horse and just to put the bit in and take a bit out and see if it fits on the length well, and so on and so on. It's also understanding just generally about the anatomy and physiology. You need to know some dentistry. You need to know actually a lot about the behavior. And it is interesting that when you examine a horse on the ground, you already see some patterns of their behavior, how they will behave with a bit and during a riding. Of course, you need to know the biomechanics, recognize the riding style, and understand where is it actually just the bit problem? Is it actually horse body issue problem, or actually is there also some rider's style adjustments need to be done? Saddlery, I can't say that the bit fitter should know really about saddle fitting, because there are saddle fitters for that, but also they need to recognize the really bad saddle fit, because it will affect at the end the whole rein contact. And you may see, you know, maybe it's nothing wrong with a bit at the end, but the saddle fit is so bad and it's pressing down to the wither that horse actually don't want to lift the back, and of course there is no good rein contact at the end. So just to recognize that. And of course low urinary signs, but as you just mentioned, the low urinary signs, how some people think, oh, you need to know technically how this bit works, and then you will know which bit you need to use for that and which bit you need to use for this. But actually, yes, you need to know how it works. But I think that horses are just as much as persons as we are, and they may just tell you that wherever you think this bit fits for me, actually it doesn't fit. So horses really, and all you need to do is just to listen to them. So yeah, the question is how. We'll get to this later down. How? So this is the slide which I think I share and I show in nearly each of my lectures I present. Horse head pressure points. So and I think it's even not all of them, if you want to count quickly how many of them there are while I'm talking. Because years before, we just thought that, but many people were thinking and talking about 3 pressure points on the horse head, if you remember, or if it was at your area, but it was in mine. And then at some point we went to Micklin Bridle, and then got more know and about the horse about the bridle influence on horse head, and then we started to talk more about the 5 pressure points. And then later on, I think at some point bridle brands started to compete between each other, and then there was 7 pressure points. And now I hear from some big brands that there are 10 pressure points what they can avoid by their bridles. But as you see, there are much more pressure points which we need to attend when we do fit bridle. So there are how many of them?
15.
Yeah, at least 15. And I think I should, and I think I should add more, and I know of about 17 at least. And it depends on a bridle design, really.
Yeah, because you don't have anything down along the jawline, the back of the jawline there. I'm sure there's.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and there are so many designs now that it's sometimes it's you need to know what you're looking for. You need to know, is this could be good for the horse or not, why it can be good or not good for the horse, and then you come over and see this design. And sometimes when you think that, for example, okay, the wider strap is, then it's better. Well, not always, not for each head. And the opposite way, for example, on some head, very thin strap will feel really, sharp. So you always have to look for these signs. Are they good or not? And all the time consider. So still, even though I would say in nearly all of them, all of these pressure points can be avoided with a nicely designed for specific horse head. I don't mean it doesn't have to be custom made, but at least it has to be in the correct size. Classical design bridle, which would be used correctly and adjusted correctly, and not over tied in many places. And by doing this, we can avoid already most of these pressure points, at least not to harm them a lot. So yes, there are a lot of them, and could be more, and especially with double bridle. And this is speaking just about the bridle pressure points. We're not even speaking about what can be with bit pressure points. So it is just them. So this is also, that's, I think lots of people already seen that, but these, I wanted just to show a little bit from inside. The nasal bone, the red spot, what we see at the nasal bone. I often meet people who want to put the noseband lower, and then I start to explain how the nasal bone are, how they go away from the maxillar bone, and that this nasal bone is really thin plate, which is actually very easy to damage. And if you know how strong horse jaw is, and what happens when the horse actually opens the jaw, what happens with a noseband, for example, yeah, it can be really pressing down to this nasal bone, and it can just snap and get broken, unfortunately. Not speaking even about the cartilage, which goes down there, yeah. But I really hope a lot of people already are aware of this information and looking for. It's really easily to palpate where the edges of this triangle, when the nasal bone goes off from a maxillar. And this is also, I also actually run the clinics for the lunging. And for the lunging, there is a cavastones, what they're used often. Mm-hmm. And this is also one of the spots what I'm making people aware of. Better to not to put the cavastone too low. Yeah. So of course it's always depends, but so on. So we all know about the foramen infraorbitale. where the yellow spot is, and that there are nerves coming off from that, and that's where we need to avoid it, and so on and so on. What people not often are aware of is this blue spot where is the mental foramen, and then there are also the nerves coming out of that. And of course, this can be influenced both by the, for example, chin or any strap below. And what people often don't think, it's a flash noseband. It actually also goes across where the nerves coming out, and also the drop noseband and the flash noseband. And they often think that, oh, they're avoiding everything on the top, what's going on here, where the cheekbone is, where the foramen in from the orbitalis, where the teeth are, but they forget about this down van strap, unfortunately. So this is always to consider, not over tighten the noseband. And I think there are lots of the research is done already on this subject. So it's not that only somebody said, it's really proven how it can influence the horse. Unfortunately, more often in a bad way. So it have to be really adjusted accordingly. So I show this one of the lovely picture where you can see all the superficial veins and vessels and some of the nerves. And then imagine what's going to happen if we put the bridle in and influence whole blood circulation in there. And if you see number 35, this is the facial vein and facial artery. And nowadays we have this anatomical bridle, what we call, yeah? Mm-hmm. And the strap is going actually mostly in this area. So we can easily press on these superficial vessels and compromise the whole blood flow. So that's why I prefer either to put the strap and adjust it a little bit much forward to the jaw, or rather a little bit backwards, but have to avoid exactly this spot. And this is often also not people aware of enough. These you see are nerves, facial nerves. And I think this is a good question also always for the same anatomical bridle we have now, which get often over tightened on the masseter muscle. And we all probably know how it feels when you hit the elbow where the nerve is, and how it feels, because that's probably one of the places where we have the nerve most closely to outside. So imagine we can see actually already with the eye these nerves, how they go. So what happens if there are all the time constantly pressure, or for example constantly rubbing of the cheek piece of from a bridle, if it's too loose or is just not the good fit for the horse? Probably it's not going to be feeling very well.
Keep going. There's somebody knocking at my door.
Somebody came.
Brad's got it. Okay, great. We're good. Keep going.
So, and this is again another aspect of the noseband, what I'm always talk about, and why I I suggest for the people try not to use the flash noseband if it's possible, because you won't believe, but at least a half, or actually even I could say more of the people, when I ask them why you are using this flash noseband, they say just because it's there. So yeah, just because it's there. Yeah, and it's so some people, they're just not aware of enough why they need to use it and should they use it. So if we look from a horse perspective of view, it's actually pressing on the horse nostrils, on a muscle which dilate the nostrils. So when horse is, in this picture you see horse in a calm state, breathing calmly. So imagine the horse needs to do a workout, galloping, like a hard physical work. He will probably be with a really open nostrils, because horses can breathe only through the nose. So, and we are unfortunately, like on the picture, we see how it can influence this area. Yeah, so it's actually on the way to expand nostrils fully and get a lot of air and oxygen in.
So,
So
is there a purpose? Like, what was the original purpose of having a flash?
that's a lot of going on questionary about this, but so far what I found that actually the cavesson noseband, the main noseband, it was originally made more for the horses. I think it also was in the Western like that, for the horses to attach the standing martingale.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it was more for that, not so horse doesn't get the head up. You probably have seen it in pictures or somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the next step was for actually to stop the horse opening also the mouth, add this flash noseband.
Because I have heard that it's to steady the bit in the horse's mouth. But yeah, if that was the original purpose, I think a lot of people have missed that one and have gone on to trying to keep the horse's mouth closed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is also what I have heard. And funnily, this information is both in your area and in my area, which are different parts of the world. But actually, I look at this like that horse actually should hold the bit already nicely in mouth without supporting, and bit should not be too big for that it need to be supported. Bit should be supported by the cheek pieces, which are holding it in the mouth. It should not be supported by anything else. If it is, then we are in trouble.
Right.
Because like I said, that's how we see. If horse is not happy to hold the bit in the mouth, we know it's wrong a bit. Yeah. So of course there might be horses who needs a lot of stabilizing of the bit, a lot. Like if you choose already the model which is most stable, which you can think of, and it's still you see still horse wanting a little bit more support, of course you can add it, but it's really little. So think about that. Cheek pieces are holding it. If they're not holding, only then you need to support with a flash noseband.
So basically, the reasons why people give for using a flash are really not well supported by any real understanding and science of bridle fit. And this is interesting. I'd never considered the flash restricting the opening of the nostril. So I think that's a really good point for not having a flash.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. For not having a flash. And like I mentioned already, with this mental hole where the nerves are coming out, that's exactly, if we look down a bit, but like under, that's exactly where it's gonna giving a lot of pressure in. Yeah. And also you probably have seen ever, unfortunately, it gives the rubs on the lips sometimes. Yep. Yeah. Also because it's a movable part of the horse. They move their lips more, and it's more likely you will get rubbed in there. Sometimes there's allergies. Sometimes it's pinching together with a bit, because it's a skin. It's very, very sensitive skin in that area. And yeah, my main point is whatever reason you want to use it, or you just use it because it's there, think about that. Actually, it impairs breathing of the horse.
Right.
And this is when I say, try to place, for example, lightly 2 fingers on the base of your nostrils
Oh, yeah.
Try to move them, feel how they move, and our nostrils are not really movable, are they? So, and we can, yeah, and we can breathe through the mouth.
Yeah.
And now think that you are running with this nose some cross country yourself.
Well, and then we see all the tape they put on the nostrils to try and open the nostrils, right?
Yeah, but that's the other way. That's also that's actually works very well. But yeah, so if you put it down a little bit, my voice is already changing, and I'm not pressing hardly. Yeah, and you feel all this movement, and it's even not as much movable as it's in the horse.
Right.
So yeah,
great
this
case
is
against flash nosebands. Thank you.
yeah, and of course, same happens with a dropped noseband or Hanoverian noseband, what we call, and I think it's even most horrible thing which we can think, and that's what happens, especially if there is a resistance from a bit and horse wants to open the mouth. The placement of it's already on the nose cartilage, and it's pressing so much easily in. And the most unfortunate thing, I don't know, was it the same in yours, but in my area, at some point it was told that it is perfect noseband for young horse. Just because.
It's often used with young horses.
Yeah.
You don't see drops as much as you used to. They're they used to be used quite a bit when I was young, but I don't really see them very often anymore.
Yeah, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, suddenly it was again a big boom of the dropped nosebands, talking that it doesn't make a pressure here where the normal Cavason noseband does, where the nerves coming out, and that people went crazy. Oh my God, there's a nerve, but they forget that there's a nerve also down there, and then there's and then there's also
cartilage. You can see how much that's pressing into the soft cartilage and blocking that horse's nostrils. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and the most unfortunate thing, because I actually rode myself just 3 times in my life in the dropped noseband, and I didn't like it at all. But the most unfortunate thing is that rider does not see it.
Yeah.
Who could see it is his trainer, wherever his trainer will tell it or not. But yes, unfortunately, in action, when you ride, you actually don't see how much it's pressed in, especially if horse opens the mouth.
Right.
So that's kind of, it kind of justifies the rider, but we just need to think, do we really need to use this type of the nosebands if it is likelihood that they can impair the breathing like that?
Well, and it's always the question of why are we using it, and why don't we solve the problem rather than try to block the symptom?
Yeah, yeah, hard the noseband, and it's also nice research is done that to make your noseband tighter, it actually will cause more problems, much more problems, and which will in long term affect whole body.
Right.
So you always need to solve the other things before you actually go for the tighter noseband.
But I do want to say, that the other side of that equation is people that say never use a noseband, and there is a purpose for a noseband. And I think, my saying is, where's the middle? I'm going to put it on my gravestone when I die, because there are times, like I just was at a riding school, and I put a noseband on all 3 horses because they were opening their mouth and avoiding. And by the time you got to the end of their jaw opening, they missed what the message was. And so, it always comes back to correctly adjusted and understanding that if the horse is avoiding the bit, you're also causing a lot of problems, because it takes so long. You have to do so much more to get the information through than if you just have a correctly adjusted noseband.
Exactly, that's correct. And if I ask people why you need to tighten the noseband, why you need the noseband in the first place, what would be the answer you would hear?
Well, for me, it's always to limit how much the horse opens his mouth so that the information can get through. So if I drop my jaw really far, now I'm going to have a lot of pressure, at the top at the TMJ, and you can actually damage the TMJ by the horse opening the mouth too much with tension on the reins. So, you know, there's, you know, when people start to flip from one extreme to the other, I'm always like cautious, because they're, you know, the quicker we can clarify the information of the horse, the less damage we're going to impart, either by having it, you know, too tight or too loose. So I hope you're on the middle with me here.
Yeah, I am, absolutely, because that's how it is. There's luckily there is always the middle. On the first, when I do bit fitting, and if I see the noseband is very tight, I always explain the consequences of the tight noseband. That's the first thing. And the second thing, when we find the bit which actually horse is more happy with, horse even doesn't need to open its mouth anymore as much.
Right.
So yeah, and then we can loosen it easily for those moments when there's a little bit more pressure or some training issues going on to horse when they open the mouth, so they would be actually accepting the bit again. So when I ask people why we need to use nosebands, mostly they answer to shut the horse mouth down, or like you explained, not limit the opening of the mouth. Well, I actually explain it that it's not for shutting the mouth, it's for accepting the bit.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, it's not opening the mouth.
Simply saying what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Super. But for the accepting the bit, and for example, if there are sometimes cases when I take noseband off completely, but to be honest, they are really rare. Why? Because, for example, if it's young horse, like you just mentioned, they need actually to understand limitation and accept the bit. Otherwise, there's no point for training, because, like you said, they will just keep open the mouth, avoid, and actually cause even more and more problems on the TMJ, on the neck, and obedience itself. That's what we're not looking for. We can't get the clear signals then. That's one point. And the second point is safety. Yeah. For example, if I have a horse, like already, who is, you know, not a young horse, but any horse who spooks, and you are riding with no noseband, and it runs away, you can't control it just because it opens the mouth and goes wherever it wants, and your pressure from a bit is much less. Yeah. So safety. That's two reasons for the young horse to accept the bit and to learn properly signals and pressure relief and so on and so on. And safety. These are two reasons. But nosebands still should be always adjusted in the correct tightness. And sometimes it can be really fluffy, and the horse should open the mouth actually sometimes even quite widely. But just to have this backup, not to completely open the jaw.
Right.
Like completely.
Well, yeah. And you know, in the Western world, the riders use a Bosel. And it's really funny because I'll hear this argument that they're against nosebands, but they use a Bosel, and a Bosel is a noseband. And so it's like, you know, I just find that curious. It's all in how but anytime we have anything around the nose, it's a noseband. And then the other piece of that is the bitless bridle people. The crossover ones, in my opinion, are not good because you can pull it tight enough, and they don't release, and now you have a ton of pressure on the nose. So you know, it's just important for people to realize that we need to not just do something because we've been told to, but really start to look and question and go, well, what happens if you know, it's a crossover and I pull? It's going to stay tight. There's no way it's going to loosen on its own unless you physically loosen it. And so
and I understand these people who want to go bitless and kind of want to improve horse welfare, but when you kind of mask the reaction of the horse on the mouth from a bit, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt for the horse more. And forgive me all the bitless people, but I must say that most horses can be ridden in bit with no problems if it's correctly fitted bit. And it's really rare when there are horses who can't be ridden in the bit, who have to be ridden bitless. And let's forgive me again, those people who are bitless bridle fans. I'm not also about just bits. I'm about the horse. And what I see is that horse often actually is much happier in the face when it have this whole pressure from a nose off. And it goes much better in the posture, riding posture, when it have bit, not bitless bridle. That's unfortunately true.
Yeah,
What?
not unfortunately true. I mean, there's a reason that there's been a bit for thousands of years.
Yeah,
and,
also, yeah.
You know, the argument I had with a bitless proponent was, in the end, which was a real surprise that she admitted it, was that it really comes down to the rider. And if it really comes down to the rider, then it doesn't matter if it's bitless, bit, Bosel, bridle, you know, bridleless. It comes down to the rider.
Rider, that's also one thing.
Yeah.
Second thing, what the expectations are for the horse and what they want to do with this horse.
Yeah.
Years ago, I found a Belgium lady. She's a professional dressage rider who rides bitless for many years, and I think I'm correct that she even wrote the books about the bitless bridle dressage. And her own conclusion at the end was, after 10 or even more years riding, that, to be honest, you can't achieve the same level of the horse going in the same relaxed and biomechanically correct way with a bitless bridle. You need to have a bit. And there is a reason why you need to have it. Now, I actually also was describing all these balance pressures, how it changes from a bit to the bitless bridle, and so on, and how it affects the whole horse back movement. And like I also mentioned that I'm doing the lunging clinics and lessons. And to be honest, I was also blind for long years doing, oh my God, no, the lunging have to be done with cavesson. That's the best what it can be done. And that's it. So, and then when I turn it up more to the bits, I realized that actually it's not true always. Again, it's up to the horse and then up to the person who is lunging it. But many horses do prefer actually to go in the bit than in the cavesson. Again, you need to have a good technique for it, how to lunge, but judging on horse own reaction and the face expression, it's completely different in the bit and in the cavesson. So
I think you just bring up really good points, and that, you know, there's nothing that's going to fit every single horse and every single rider, and it's really coming down to, you know, what skill set do you have? Because if you're not good at lunging, you're not good at lunging, and it doesn't matter if you're in a bit or a cavesson. You need to improve your skills as a person who can properly lunge a horse. And there are some horses, for very good reasons, that can't carry a bit, whether that's something with their mouth that they have, misformed mouth or whatever. And so I think it's just really important for people to realize that we're talking in very general terms, and that every horse is an individual, and every horse rider combination, it's important to assess that horse rider combination, because there's times when you would change a bit on a horse because you have a child on that horse versus a very talented rider. And so, you know, its circumstances are really, we have to take that into consideration and really evaluate these different environments and situations and functions. You know, I wouldn't put a kid on a horse. A lot of times I use a side pole. When I ran a riding school, I put all the horses in side poles, which could not tighten and gave direct turning aids for the young kids, so that they weren't pulling on the horses' mouths. But I think that's really, really important. And someone's asked if you are familiar with and know how to properly fit a Bosel.
Bosel in my area is actually not the piece of the equipment we use at all.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, it means I have to find somebody to come on and talk about fitting Bozels. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But again, if I would come and need to fit it, I still would fit it accordingly to the horse anatomy, a specific horse exterior anatomy, to avoid all the pressure points which could impair the health.
Right.
So still, it wouldn't be too high, it wouldn't be too low, and it would be just on the spot where it would be most convenient for both, for the rider and for the horse. Yeah. So that's how I always work. Sometimes I come to the client and I take the bit which I never seen in my life, but then I see, is it actually a good bit for this horse, or or he could be better for this. So it's always like that. Yeah. Cool. So sorry, I can't answer this question just because we are more English riders in this area. But I was highly interested in Bozal myself, and I wanted to try to ride with it. But I'm really not riding anymore so much because I'm busy with lots of other stuff. And yeah, but from my point of view, I put this for the bitless bridle. And still, bitless bridle often are too tight. Even the side pull itself, like you mentioned, you were using side pull, but then we come back to the tight nose bands, and lots of people don't understand that actually the bitless bridle can have the same action as a very tight nose band.
Yeah,
that's yeah.
Okay, onward.
Yeah. So, mouth inspection. This is what I encourage every horse owner to do, because sometimes it's enough just to look in the horse's mouth to realize what is the problem and why this horse is not going well, and just to check up if you haven't harmed this horse with particular piece of the equipment. So inspection of the mouth doesn't have to be so thorough, but at least when your dentist is coming, ask him to really thoroughly look inside the mouth, and not only on the teeth, because sometimes people just missing these parts. But yeah, just look inside of your mouth carefully. And of course, if you would start to look for the different horses in the mouth, you would quickly realize that they're very different between each other, with bigger tongues, flatter tongues, smaller tongues, softer tongues, more harder tongues, more flash on the lips, less flash on the lips, more elastic, less elastic, so much space in the mouth, and so on and so on. So there are lots of variation in there. And here you can see also two different mouths of the horse. And you can, of course, you can already see that it's different age of the horse, but how the tongue sits within the mouth, and which lips are more stretchy and which lips are less stretchy. And it all influences also how the bit will sit and which type of the bit maybe I should think of first to offer to this horse. Doesn't have to be that he will like it, because bit fitting partly is the knowledge, partly is the science and all these researches we know, and partly it's still a little bit of trial, because I can't come over to the horse and ask, hey horse, which bit do you like? So I offer, but I need to see what to offer. So if I have hundreds and more bits, and I look in the mouth, and I look on the behavior of the mouth, how they will present, and I listen to the history, what the rider says, then we have already some bits on the mind, and then we try them out, and then we see. But still, we are on the mouth inspection now. So very different mouths. It's not just anatomy, it's also the individual exterior and interior of the mouth. So not just anatomy as anatomy. So this is the other view we always need to look at. Well, I need to always to look at. And of course, not speaking about the dentistry itself, that it's a little bit off in this horse. What we can see, speaking by the bit and by the tongue already, that's sticking on one side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yep. Yep. So this already tells that there is a tension on that side, that all the hyoid apparatus, that all the muscle within it will be affected. Yeah. So, and that's where we come to the complex work with a horse, that it have to be addressed both in the body and within the bit, and dentistry also together. Yeah. So of course I can say also straight away that most likely this horse will be tighter on his left rein, because we have a tongue tension here and we need to work it out as much as possible. Of course there are plenty of reasons why it can be like that. Also the already deformatives within the jaw joint, within some problems with hyoid itself. Just to need to make sure that we make horse as comfortable as possible with a bit, so it doesn't get more tension in there, and put some body work on this too, and then see how we can resolve it. So again, mouth inspection. This is one of the cases when the horse had very, very soft tongue itself. And I know that this was not done by specifically this rider, but also the rider didn't know ever that the horse have this scar tissue on the tongue. So of course, if we know this, we already know that we can't use certain types of bits which may harm him even more. And in this case, of course, we can't use very thin bit. Speaking about the thin bit, not sometimes, but in many cases, even the very young horses, they often choose more thinner bit than a thicker bit. Like you just mentioned, before that we were riding with a very thick bits and so on and so on. Yes, and it's not always the case, but most horses like 16 millimeters thickness and smaller, and very rare you need thicker bit. But for example, if we see this picture like we have here with these scar tissues, we already know that we can't choose thin bit, even if horse will like it really much. So we need to find some alternative to the horse with a little bit thicker. And in this case, it was just a softer rubber bit, which he went the best with anyway. So it was good. Horse chose itself a very good bit, which I would, be happy to fit for him anyway. So that's just, again, speaking about the mouth inspection have to be done. So here's another interesting case. Owner called me and asked for the bit fitting, saying that the horse started to open the mouth suddenly at some point, of course, and avoiding the rein contact and so on and so on and so on. And I did first evaluation, and I didn't find anything much. And then we started to do bit testing. And again, I went with my arms into the lips a little bit deeper, and I felt this cyst. So actually, horse was objecting this cyst from a bit. Of course, if there is a cyst, it's very unusual finding actually, generally in the lips. But that's what the point is, that you need to look for these things. So of course, it was clearly that this is the reason why horse suddenly started to open the mouth. The reason why this cyst showed, we never know. Was it some kind of injury, bite, or whatever? But what we knew is that it is right on the place where the bit lays in. So again, we needed to find the specific bit which is avoiding this place as much as possible. So
oh, a kitty. Good. It's always nice to have a kitty show up.
begging for the food again. So yes, so just look in your horse mouth before you think that you need tighten up noseband, before you think that you need to change the bit, and probably you need to change the bit if you have a problem, but then you need to understand why you have this problem.
Natasha's really impressed that you found that.
So another case, this is a very, very severe stomatitis. Like you see, there is abrasions on the tongue and lots of splits. And again, nobody really looked into the horse's mouth. And the feedback was that horse is actually even afraid to have the bridle on, to put them on. And really chewing and spitting the bit and so on and so on. And turned out the horse has this a huge stomatitis, which probably was caused by the botflies, by the gastrophales. Yes, yeah. And that year, unfortunately, there were so many botflies eggs on the leg, so it was not surprise that horse got this stomatitis.
Oh.
So of course, so they deworm it. They let the horse to recover with the tongue, and it was all good and fine. But that was, again, just look into your horse's mouth and think why he's actually so afraid to put the bridle on. The horse owner was absolutely loving horse owner. She was absolutely devastated to find this out. It's just, yeah, it's just that nobody really thought that they have to look into the mouth. So that's how it often happens, unfortunately. And when we do bit fitting, we also look on the reaction. We'll also look into the mouth for the reaction, what's going on with a bit. And here is shown that horse is opening widely mouth. Actually, he's opening because I pulled his upper jaw a little bit, upper jaw and lip a little bit higher. And it looks horrible that I'm pulling so much this bit tightly. Actually, it is really light pressure made on the bit itself, and horse is exhibiting this behavior. And what is the most important information here is horse is pulling tongue up once the pressure is down on the bit. Yeah. So again, examining the mouth when it's a bit inside and see what's going on within the mouth when there's a bit, and do a light pressure. So that was the problem with this bit. And this is the bit which I think invest people is very common, if I'm correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. With a barrel in between. This
yeah, it's as opposed to a jointed snaffle. It's kinder than the little rabbit ears.
Yeah. So what I find, to be honest, with this one, that exactly where the link is, I hope you see this arrow, what I'm showing with the red. Yep. So exactly here where it is, once it's engaged and moving, by many, many designs, not all of them, but a lot of these designs, it's actually pinching.
Oh.
Yeah. It's actually pinching, and you think of very soft tongue, which actually kind of all laid into this bit. Of course, as soon as there is action, it will give a little pinch.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but in some designs, I found this badly, unfortunately. It seems that it's very a subtle movement in there, but there is. And if you, I think I don't have any bit with me at the moment. If you try to put like in here, bit and try to move this link and feel how it will pinch your skin.
Okay.
Try
to test the edges of that barrel to see if it pinches.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And someone's asking about your technique for inspecting inside the mouth. I mean, what I've noticed is that you have your hand firmly over the bridge of the nose to keep your fingers safe. And I think that's the most important thing, is that when you do go to look in a mouth, you have to have an anchor for your hand. It can't be
Yes.
floating.
Yeah. You need to support your hand. You also, in this picture, you see that I have supported the hand and the head by the noseband side.
Right.
See? Yeah. So that's another. I can't go just straight into the mouth. So I partly fix the horse first. It's actually mostly it's for both of us. That's for the horse and for me, for myself. So I can control horse head. It doesn't go against me very quickly. And also I feel once the horse pulls, so I don't pull on the horse within the mouth, with a lip or with a tongue, whichever. So I always fix the head with head collar or with against the noseband, and then I look inside. Mostly I start with a down jaw with my thumb or with my indicator very carefully, not to go too much inside.
Yep.
Inside the mouth. But then I often hold the head collar and hold the noseband and help with one finger to open the down lip, and with other arm open the upper lip.
Yeah.
And of course, yes, you need to support somehow the hand. And nevertheless, of course, you always need to introduce yourself to the horse first and make them understand that you're not going to harm them, you know, and so on and so on. And literally, to be honest, I often, not often, no, I can't say often, no, that's not true, but I now and then I meet the persons when I come to the bit fitting, and they say, oh my god, my horse is so afraid from strange people, I don't know how we're gonna do bit fitting. And then I start to work with horse, and then I kind of still communicate with the owner, and horse is completely fine.
Yes.
We just need not to scare them with our actions.
Right. And that noseband, it is very difficult to do that without a noseband, because you can't get a good anchor for the lower.
No. Yeah. Always need to be, you don't go to the naked horse. You need to have some either noseband or head collar, whichever. Yeah. And yeah, of course, when we have a horse without the noseband, then I usually ask for the head collar too. Yeah. And also when we change the bits, I found that it's very difficult for the horse to cope with the fact that the rudder is coming off and on, off and on. So when we do bit change, actually I hold the horse myself, or I have assistants who is holding the horse without a rudder coming off. And it is a little bit problem when there's no noseband, because I take the bit off. So always, again, if there is no noseband, then it should be head collar always. Yeah. Always hold the horse firmly, or you need the assistant to hold it, because it pays off. Some horses just generally don't like that the people go off and on, and some horses are getting so confused why the rider is coming off and on, that I prefer to do maybe first bit change with rider off the horse, so horse understands what we're doing, and we know the reaction of the horse to the bit change, and then we carry on with a rider on.
Right. Yeah. Safety first, always.
always safety first. Nothing can compare with a safety. Always safety first. So bit size, and then you think, oh, here we go. We know everything about the bit size already. Whoa. So what new can you tell us today? Well, nothing, to be honest. Nothing new, absolutely. My point is, so not how it should be looking within the mouth. We all know that it should stick so much and so much out of the mouth. If it's fixed ring, so egg butt, it should be right against the lip side. If it's a loose ring, it has to be actually much less than it's written in the books.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna go on that, to be honest, because I think it's boring.
Okay, fine.
And
Let's move on.
one of the reason why it's boring and why I found this is a quite a useless um, subject or topic, because within one horse you can have um, a size difference is at least 2. So from 11.5, it can go to 13.5. Why? It's all up to the model of the bit. It's all up to the thickness of the bit.
So
So
it's like shoes. Just because it's
exactly,
an 8, it doesn't mean
absolutely,
it's gonna fit you. If you're an 8, you have to try on the shoes.
exactly. Yes, and that's why we go and try these shoes, and it's like I was also a bit amazed by this one once I started, but then it made all sense, you know. And actually it's physics,
Yes.
and so I feel very poor for those owners sometimes who go to the shop and they suddenly say, oh, anatomical bit, it's going to be so nice for my horse, and so on and so on. But then they buy the same size they have now, for example, for the simple straight model bit, and then they literally have bits sticking out of the mouth.
Yeah.
Of course, because it's an anatomical bit, it's a little bit shaped like in the curve, and it goes much closer to the whole mouth structures, and it will be a little bit more outside. So we actually would need to go at least a half a size or even size down. So that's why I think this is why to be honest, I think it's quite of useless to explain how the bit should be. But my point is that, for example, here are two similar bits when you start to look at them first. And it seems so because it's visually, it looks like. But on here, you finally see that there are absolutely different bits, and they are different by the canons.
Yep.
The link actually is really little difference between it, but there is a little
Yeah,
difference.
one's
And the
fatter.
ring size,
Yeah.
and the ring size, and all these little details, they do matter for the horse. And by this picture, actually, I want more to say that not that always that looks like it is like that. So it matters for the horse. And actually in here you can see that these loops, the holes in the canons are much bigger here and smaller in here, and for the horse it will matter again. Maybe not a lot, but for some a lot. And I was so surprised myself when I saw a little, absolutely little differences, even in the size. If you put one size, absolutely same bit, one size, and just try it in different size, let's say a little bit bigger, it's two completely different horses.
Yeah.
So much it can bring, these little differences. Smaller ring or bigger ring. Yeah. It is I came to conclusion that the ring itself, it's actually more for the rider than for the horse, if we just look at the bit. For the horse, it's all that matters what's inside the mouth, and how it's affecting by the rider, it's more matters from the outside. So the ring itself. And I found that lots of horses are actually going much better in a smaller ring than in a bigger ring. But there are horses who need bigger ring because of the rider. So yeah, so you need really be critical to the bit size, not thinking that, oh my god, I need thicker bit because it's gonna hurt my horse less. But then we actually ended up with 12 millimeters bit because that's the only one what he wants to hold in the mouth, and the rest of that, it feels absolutely like a foreign body for them. And fin bit feels very nice, and it doesn't matter if it's young horse or older horse, that's what he accepts, and that's it. And here's what we find with a bigger bit, smaller bit, and especially problem with double jointed bit.
Mm-hmm.
A double jointed bit is one, nowadays they think it's one of the most friendly bit for the horse. But unfortunately, it also the bit which can damage horse more easier in a way than actually even a straight bit or a single jointed bit. So I heard once by one person saying, like when we were discussing about the double jointed bit, it should be actually really spotless fitted, not too big at all, because if it will be a bit bigger, that's what you will see. It will just slip asymmetrically to one side, and it always will be holding like that. For the horse, it will be really asymmetrical still. So, and then I heard from that person saying, well, yes, that's what they do. That's what the double bit do. It should not do this, because then you can harm the horse. And here's the biggest reason, that the link here, once it's pulled out, it's laying actually on the edge on the bars and the lip, which is covering the bars, and it's kind of opening this lip and easily can cut this lip and pinch this lip. So this is why we need to be aware. I think you already were talking about the link size with Dr. Hillary Clinton, that it should be smaller because of the jaw and so on. And this is another reason. If there is too long link, really, and especially on top of that, the size of the bit is a bit bigger than it should be, then the damage will occur very easily.
Right.
Not in all horses, but it's super bigger reason why it can happen.
But again, opening the mouth and looking to see what it's going on is really important.
Exactly, yes. And again, I feel also that you should not be led by fashion, but by your horse preferences. For example, some years ago, it started that single jointed bit is poking to the palate, and so on and so on and so on. But now we're thankfully coming to conclusion that actually also double jointed bit is with contact on the palate anyway also. And if I say to people, so okay, we have single jointed bit which may poke to the palate or have a nutcracker effect, fine. So what you're gonna say if I will say to you that double jointed bit is actually making more pressure to the tongue? It's also bad then. It's not bad really. You just need to fit the correct size, and you need to see what the horse likes. And to be honest, in my work, I find lots of horses who do like at some point single jointed bits over the double jointed bits. And I'm saying, really, horse will not go nicer in a bit, which will harm him.
Right.
So if this horse is going nicer in a single jointed bit, it does not harm him. And also, people forget that when you take a rein contact, I know it will look ugly now, but I'll show you if you can see. Yeah, when you take the rein contact, the bit actually is like sinking in to the tongue and to the lip like that, downwards. So it's actually in the contact is going away from palate.
Okay.
Yeah, and once I've put the finger in, when the rider is holding rein contact, and the size of the single jointed bit is correct, I haven't found that it's poking to the palate.
Okay.
There are really rare cases when it's super low palate and a little bit bigger single jointed bit, then it's really really on the edge to poke. That's true. Yes, but you have to be really critical on this information, always. So how can I know if the bit fits? Well, I'm answering by looking on his face, looking in the face. Well, luckily now we all, well, not all, but hopefully we do all know about the ridden horse ethogram, which is done by Sue Dyson, and there is also a grimaces pain scale done by researchers, and face action also. How was it? Face action scoring or something
Yep.
like that. So if before people were thinking that a horse can't show emotions because there is not enough muscle on the face, well, now we're thankfully coming to this, that actually we can judge on horse well-being by just looking on its face. Of course, it's not the only one.
It's getting a lot of attention right now, Dr. Dyson's work and the facial expressions. So it's really great because we've looked at this we've seen this for a very long time, but we've never really looked at it. And it's
exactly, yeah. So I'm sure like you are a very experienced person for many, many years, and you saw it anyway. But it's just because nobody on the research level said that, yes, it can be like that. Right. It was like only that you said so and you felt so. And there are many people like that, because horse people who are spending a lot of time with horses, they will know their horse face expression, for sure. And saying differently, it will be absolutely stupid because they have these face expressions anyways. So yes, so facial expression is one how I can determine if horse is happy with a bit or not. Expression and the motion, of course. If horse is not holding the bit and chewing and is unsteady, of course it's the sign that he's uncomfortable. And when the horse mouth is steady and calm, then it's more comfortable. And like I already mentioned, it's absolutely amazing to see how horse face is changing and relaxing, actually, once you have this bit which he's happy with. It's amazing. It's just amazing. You just have to, people, you just have to ask your horse. You have just to ask yourself, is this equipment is the best what can be for my horse? Is this the best for what he can have? Or maybe at least question yourself, maybe he needs different bit, different bridle and different saddle, maybe. So face expression is one of. Oh, I missed one D. It's not ridden. Ridden. Sorry, spelling check problems. It was quick. So I think you, Wendy, could describe the differences in this pictures much better than I do.
That's okay. You keep going, because I just looked. I have to get my charger from my laptop. So
otherwise you will be off.
Yeah, we'll just so go for it, and let me get my charger.
So in general, that's another how I am looking for a better bit, because what we need to see in a ridden horse is a good posture. We don't want to see dropped back. We don't want to see a horse behind vertical. We don't want to see a horse with head up. We don't want to see that their diagonals are not following each other, or that we have shorter stepping behind or shorter stepping in front. So on the top picture here, you can see that horses with a hollow back, the hind leg is stepping actually shorter than the front leg. You can see the tail carriage is completely different. And of course, the head itself is kind of more, not head, sorry, neck and chest connection is more pulled down. So from a long-term perspective view, of course, it will be damageable for the horse because he will carry more weight on the front legs. His back will be more in pain because he's not lifted up with a back, and there's not enough to carry the rider. So the spinal processus spinosus and the spinal ligaments and facet joints will be damaged more. So On the second picture, of course, you can say it's not the same face. Well, I did try to get as much as better as possible the same face, and it's, to be honest, it is the same face. The thing is, once you have horse going forward, from behind, through the back, through the wither, you don't even get these pictures, what is on the top. You just don't get them. There is none of them. And this is when you judge on the pictures on your horse, you can if you see that every single next picture is good, and you see that in every single next picture your horse is in the balance, then you know for sure everything is fine. But if you have a picture, this is not nice posture, oh, here is the leg off and here is that, then you have a balance problem for sure. So on the down picture, you see that the back is lifted much higher, the tail tension is less and it's down, the diagonals between each other, so the front leg is following forward widely, nicely, and the hind leg also is much wider, and that the wither and the chest, the whole thoracic sling is up forward, hold it up. So the question is, of course, how it's possible, and so on and so on. I think we still don't know how it's possible.
We know how it's possible because the tongue is connected to the front legs.
No, that's the part what we know, but of course, that's the part what we know, but we still don't know a lot. Well, that's what I mean. Of course, it's because how bit is only by its shape, only by its weight is affecting the tongue. Then it's affecting the whole muscles in the tongue, the hyoid apparatus. The hyoid apparatus affecting the jaw joint, the jaw joint affecting the skull and the first vertebrae connection, and then we have a dorsal line of the fascia, how it flows. And of course, on the down neck, we have the muscle which are attaching to the leg, and then to the chest, to the sternum down, and that's how it's affecting. And down through the belly, abdominal muscles, through the pelvic. Yes, that's so far how we know, but I believe that there is still far more to know how it's affecting, and I think we need to only research even more on that. So, and I think this is also very good coming together with all the webinars you already had about the myofascia, the hyoid apparatus. And guys, if you haven't seen them, please look at them, because that's whole how it comes together, even in a thing like a bit and the bridle. So just look, and also the sure foot pads, especially on the front legs. I think that's how amazingly it can get the relaxation and the whole ventral part of the to the tongue, to the TMJ, just by using them. And if you already have some tensions and problems there, I think this is one of which can give a little bit better balance for the horse, and it will be all connected all together. With the fascia lines, with anatomy, with riding, how we ride, with attitude to our horses, with everything. So looking on your horse face and looking on your horse posture, you will know, reading horse posture, that this bit is correct bit.
Yep.
So also I get the question, good bit or bad bit? Is it good bit or bad bit? Again, I think in the whole now time while we are talking, or actually I am talking so stupidly, I gave a point that there are no bad or good bits. There are, from my scale point of view, there are horse-friendly bits and horse-unfriendly bits. And the second is correctly fitted or incorrectly fitted.
Yeah.
There are no bad or good bits. Like I said, the single-jointed bit will not be superior or on any way by the double jointed bit. It's just by the horse, what he prefers. Of course, the bit itself have to be horse friendly, so no sharp edges, know that it can harm the horse straight way, know that the particular bit will harm the horse because horse have certain issues, or for example too soft tongue or whichever. But so just just think that it's no good or bad bits, and don't follow just the fashion what it comes from. Be very critical to information, and also judge on your horse. Ask your horse, is it the best what it can be? Well, thank you very much for your attention and listening to me.
So someone's asking about different materials of bits. You have rubber bits and metal bits and nylon bits. And I'm thinking that you've already answered that question, but it's pretty much what the horse is going to prefer, that we have all these choices, and then we have to look at that particular horse's mouth. Also straight bars, copper, you know.
Yeah. Again, yes, the different materials we offer to the horses, lots of that is coming through the marketing, through the bit brands are, how could I say, like competing between each other, who will make better, and so on and so on and so on. There are certain rubber bits which are low quality, which I would never use. So again, that's a question about a friendly or unfriendly bit for the horse, because rubber itself will heat up while it's moving. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's heating up. It's like if you take and rub something, you can try to rub with stainless steel, or you take your arm and rub with a rubber. You will feel the heat of the rubber very quickly. Yeah.
And then,
but then again, there are
a lot of people talk about a sweet iron bit or a copper bit.
Yeah.
Do you have copper poisoning in a horse in a copper bit?
I also was thinking, doesn't that poison that? But of course they're not poisoning. But that's another subject what I did not touch today, because I wish I would have 3 days of conference.
We can always have you come back, okay? We can always have you come back and do another webinar.
For example, salivation, and a lot of times they are promoting the salivation of the horse, so it will accept the bit by the taste, by the chewing, and so on and so on and so on. But sometimes this salivation, and actually not sometimes, but very often, is way too much, and there are many reasons why it is. But one of the reasons can be copper itself. And one of the reasons that horse is getting allergic reaction around the lips is copper. It's not often cases, but there are sometimes. And this is when you come in and you need to work out like a detective what is wrong. And this is one of. Sweet iron, so far I have quite a good experience with. But very often, like what I say to people when they ask me about the material, don't worry, you are whoever asked this often asked question. It's all very, very common. The fact is that no matter what material it's gonna be, if it's metal, as long as it fits by the shape. So horse preference always will be to the shape rather than to the material, except if horse prefers plastic bits. Right. So softer feel, lighter feel, non-metallic feel. That's how it's matters. So sometimes, yes, sometimes horse just prefers plastic bit over the metallic bit. So that's the biggest one. But otherwise, it's a shape. If I give, sorry.
Somebody's asking about, they have learned that loose ring bits pinch the corners of the mouth. So is a D ring better? your thoughts on
That's a
that.
very good question. That's a very good question. Again, I didn't touch this subject because I thought, oh, it's boring. But it's a very good question. In a real time, in a real world, I found that it's really rare when actually it is pinching.
Okay.
Horses are coping super well with this loose rings, and this is one of the reasons why the most people fit it too far away from the lips, but actually then you get the action of the bit going forwards and backwards like this.
Right.
Too much, and that's causing much more problems instead of when bit is tighter. What horses don't like more than that, it's actually like when rings coming in, this the ring itself. I find horses which don't like ring attaching to the lips. It's quite sharp ending of the mouthpiece. And that's what they don't like more, not pinching.
Right.
So when I find horses that who prefers egg butt over the loose ring, it's more because he feels more smoother in that area.
And some
And
horses
pinching,
need a more stable ring just for that support. Again, it's so individual. Just go ahead and unshare your screen, then we can see you. And then, you know, someone was asking about a specific bit brand, but I think you've kind of already touched on that in that, you know, the bit companies are always trying to come out with better over their competitors. So we're always going to see different metals, different shapes, that sort of thing, which is great.
Yeah.
That we're finally starting to understand that we need to make bits that are more horse mouth shaped. But on the other hand, a lot of it just comes down to marketing. Do you agree with that?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
And this is the part where, unfortunately, lots of people do get confused now.
Right.
Yeah, they confused because, of course, it's super good that we have like over the 500,000 models because the horses are so different. But on the other hand, riders get so confused.
Right.
And then we ending up with all these troubles.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I really liked is what you've done is you've helped us understand what we need to do in order to figure out what our horse needs, rather than just telling us, you know, this is the best bit, which is what so many people do. They, you know, I can't tell you how many trainers say, well, you just, you know, just get this bit, it's going to solve all your problems. But it doesn't, because if the bit doesn't fit the horse, it's not going to solve the problem.
No. I still often, unfortunately, I do meet a very kind of good trainers as a trainer, which knowledge of this contact is still not there, and I'm so surprised because they just say, oh yes, this bit is good, and then poor rider and horse are keep going in this bit for half a year.
Right.
And it is upsetting. And also there are still lots of misconceptions. Same with this salivation, that people think that, I don't know, maybe it's not the same in your country, but it's in mine, that the horse have to have a lot of savilia. Well, now thankfully they start to also seeing other things that actually not always have to be, but lots of trainers, like big trainers, still think like that. And have you heard the concept about that horse have to chew on bit?
Yeah, there's a lot of terms that we use that I think, and maybe we'll have you come back and do another webinar and talk about some of these things, because, you know, we have these descriptions of how the horse should, you know, pack the bit or chew on the bit or salivate, and really, in my opinion, what we want is a quiet mouth. We want a mouth
exactly.
That's quiet,
and there
doesn't have tension.
Exactly. And there is a reason for quiet mouth, not only training, nicer moving, but also physiology of the horse.
Yeah.
And that's probably another thematic, another topic for the webinar.
That's what I'm thinking. I think what we'll have to do is have you come back and talk a bit more about this, because we didn't even get to assessing the height of the bit in the mouth and stuff. So will you please come back for another webinar?
If you will like, I would love so. I think it was a great fun. I think I am sorry to those people who just didn't maybe get my point, or didn't get really my expression, what I wanted to say. But main message is just love your horse, and think for it. Think for, is it the best what he can have?
Everybody's loving this webinar, so you don't have to make any apologies. Okay, they're all, the comments are coming in, and you know, it's I just loved your slides. They're really well presented, very clear, and I just really appreciate that how you have simplified what can be a very complicated conversation. And I think that's the problem. And so many people have been overwhelmed or confused, or been told it doesn't matter. You know,
exactly. Yeah.
And it's really, where's the middle? And this is what we really need to do. So
we want the middle, and each horse is individual, as we are all. We also are personalities, and we're all different, and horses are just as different. And we just need to ask them just how it is. Do you like it or not? Yeah. Think about that. Well, so thank you very much also.
Thank you so much for joining me, and it was a terrific talk on bits. Really, I'm so glad you reached out to me, because Stefanija actually contacted me about doing this webinar. I didn't know about her when I was, you know.
But I know about you.
Yeah, which is awesome.
I knew about you.
I'm so glad you contacted me. So it was really great, because this has been fantastic. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Wendy, and thank you for your contributing. Thank you. Thank you for contributing. Thank you again for doing these super webinars. I mean, I've been all watching them also, just to get different topics, and getting over again and listen to other people. And it's so interesting, and it's just awesome. Thank you very much for doing
thanks
this.
A lot.
I know it takes a lot of time, but it's so much worth it.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, everybody, till next time. What's today? Tomorrow. Is today Thursday? It's Thursday. Tomorrow it's my webinar at 1 o'clock on Surefoot. So I'll see you there. Everybody have a great day, and bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you.